Welcome to With All My Heart, a podcast hosted by Joanna Coburnat, pastor's wife at Victory Baptist Church in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. This podcast is designed to help ladies of all ages with the principles of the Word of God. In this podcast, we will explore what it means to love God with all our hearts. Through Bible lessons, we will discover how to deepen our relationship with the Lord and experience His love in a more personal way. As we journey together, let's open our hearts to the unchanging truths of God's Word.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for another week of With All My Heart. And as you can see, I am not alone. I have Miss Melanie Sutmaier who is with me today, and I have been really excited about this. Earlier in the month of November, whenever I was thinking about this month and just thinking that I really wanted the focus to be on Thanksgiving, my mind started to kind of go down the path of thinking about just how many things, yes, the blessings, the obvious blessings we are given, but how many things that we just take for granted. That there are so many people around the world that if they even had a day or a week, they would just think it was the most amazing vacation or the most amazing thing to have the things that we do and that we so often take for granted sometimes as Americans. Well, I thought about Melanie, and Miss Melanie, as my girls like to call her, she is a teacher in our high school, and she's a very beloved teacher. And of course, many of you know her sister Natalie. Natalie also taught for us. We love Natalie so much. Keep her and her health in your prayers. But Melanie and Natalie are the daughters of missionaries, and they're not just the daughters of missionaries. Melanie is a missionary, and she was born in Mexico. Yes. She grew up on the mission field of Mexico, in Mexico City, just right outside, really just in a suburb, right there really in Mexico City, which is a huge metropolis. Her parents, the Sutmaiers, which we think so highly of, they have been so faithful in ministry there, and they've been there for 25 years. And so they have entrusted their daughter Melanie to us, and we're so grateful for her. So I asked Melanie earlier this month, I said, Melanie, would you be willing to just give us a little bit of insight of what maybe it's like as someone in another country that grew up in another country, what it's like to look over into America. Could we look through your eyes for just a bit to know what it's like? And so I had a few questions that I'm going to ask Melanie, and she's going to share some things with us, and I know it's going to be a blessing. So we're going to start right off, Melanie. When you think back to life in Mexico, you know, there's things that we just enjoy every single day in America. But what are some things as you think back that you think we enjoy every day, but you did not have there, or maybe people there wish they did have?
Right. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, Ms. Joanna. I'm honored to be here. I'm very thankful for the opportunity. I'm very thankful for my upbringing in Mexico, very thankful for all of the experiences that I got to have, all of the places that I got to go, all the things that I got to see that most people in their lifetime they'll never get to see that I got to see before I turned 18. But thinking back of certain things that we might have had or things that might have been different, there were a lot of things that every day life was different in Mexico. One thing that I can think of was even just buying groceries. Like here in the States, going to a grocery store is the common thing. You know, you need to buy a carton of eggs or a gallon of milk or something like that. But in Mexico, we did have grocery stores. We did have like the chain grocery stores, but that wasn't the common thing. Anytime we needed to buy fresh produce, we would go around the corner. Or if we needed to go buy fresh chicken, we'd go across the street to the chicken lady, or around the corner to the tortilla place or the bread store. So even just something as simple as buying groceries looked very different than it would here in the States.
That's really such a great reminder. What I'm hearing there is just the convenience that we take for granted. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking, I don't even go to the store anymore. I sit in my house or I'm on my phone while I'm waiting in line somewhere, and I place my order, and then it's brought to me. And I have a sister who's a missionary in Africa, and I'm sure Melanie's probably too nice to tell me this, but I'm spoiled. And I think as Americans we are spoiled, and I wouldn't change my life, but I want to recognize that, and I want to be grateful for the conveniences God has given us. Thinking about, at Thanksgiving time, the holidays, I know I host people in my home a lot, plan events, but and Christmas, we are about giving gifts often, maybe it's for our children, and we do try to reach out. I know we're doing things for the shut-ins and the widows this time of year and some of our underprivileged families, but as you think back of looking at the life there in Mexico compared to America, but how did generosity, hospitality, how are they the same? How do they differ?
Well, Mexico people are very generous, and our church people especially, they really modeled what generosity was, especially knowing that they didn't have as much as what we would consider to be, a lot or what would be needed, but very generous, very hospitable. In Mexico, it's a common thing that anytime you have like a snack or food, that you pass it around to everyone before you take some yourself. So I can remember even going in the van to camp or to youth conference, like we'd have our snacks with us, like road trip snacks, but we'd have to pass it around to everyone before you could get it. And sometimes you'd get it back and it'd be empty, but and that would be disappointing. But just overall, the spirit of generosity and very, very humble, very, very generous, very hospitable. Thanksgiving was different for us because we didn't have our personal families there, but I know we got together with missionaries a lot, other Americans in the area. So I'm very thankful for those experiences.
That's so interesting, and my mind's going all over the place. First of all, I've got a couple kids that would never survive those trips if they had to give their snacks out to everybody. But I think what I heard there is I heard people that have needs, sometimes great needs, and it almost sounds like that the greater the need they had, the faster they were, the quicker they were to recognize the need in someone else.
Yes.
And I wonder sometimes if it's possible that we become selfish because we are so spoiled. Mm-hmm. And so then it's hard to realize that others truly do have needs. And so I know for me, that's something that I really want to remember and recognize in my life. What kind of going along through that, tell me, is there anything you can tell me or stories you can remember about learning about gratitude from someone who had maybe a lot less than you did?
Yes, there are many instances, and growing up as a missionary kid, as a ministry kid, we kind of get to see firsthand a lot of struggles that people go through just by stories that our parents would tell or just situations that we got to see firsthand. I know my dad would take me a lot of times out visiting with him, and we'd go visit families, and I would usually hang out with the kids or, just sit on the couch and sit quietly. But anytime you went to someone's house, you could just expect that they were going to feed you or they were going to offer you something, even if you know that they're going through the hardest circumstance, even if you know that they don't have anything, that you're always going to be taken care of, and they're always looking on how to serve others before they serve themselves. And they have so much faith in God that they know that they're going to get brought through any situation that they have. And I remember seeing that firsthand just as a kid, just seeing how generous people were with what we would consider to be very, very little, but they gave of their hearts and they gave willingly.
Wow. Sounds like I need to take a trip to Mexico or another foreign country.
I definitely recommend missions trips. You don't understand it fully until you get to see it with your own eyes. And I know we've had missions trips here that people have taken. I know you have family on the mission field, so you know even more than most. But if you go on a missions trip, your eyes are really open to what the circumstances really are like.
I always tell my sister, I know just enough to know that I don't know. And until you really walk a mile in those shoes or experience it, there's no way to comprehend it. Right. I like what you said there, that they always serve others before they serve themselves. And I think I'm convicted just with that statement, because I think as American culture, it's all about me. And I think one of the things since COVID, and I don't think we intended it like this, but I think we got so used to hoarding everything or staying 6 feet away, and if we're not careful, and I've been guilty of this too, I think it's all about protecting our boundaries or our safe space or taking care of me, number one. And, I know that that's not biblical, and I'm challenged with that statement, that they always served others before they served themselves. What is something simple that you didn't have then, but you really appreciate now?
There are many things that I can think of, but my parents, they did a really great job at making sure we didn't focus on what we didn't have. And especially, I grew up in Mexico. I was born there, so Mexico was all I knew. Everything that we had was all I knew. But then since moving to the States, there are a lot of conveniences. Right. I'm like, that was, it's nice to not have to do this or not have to do that. Something as simple as tap water being clean. In Mexico, the tap water has a lot of bacteria, amoebas in it, so even whenever you go to brush your teeth, you have to get a bottle of water or purified water to just wet your toothbrush and rinse your mouth. But here in the States, you just run your toothbrush under the tap water. So something just as simple as that is definitely a convenience that I see now that we didn't have, growing up, something as simple as that.
And those things add up. I mean, it adds up time and extra just effort. That's a great reminder. what is something that you had in Mexico that maybe was considered special or a treat or a luxury that Americans just take for granted here?
One thing that was really special to us is anytime we got to go out to eat. Here in the States, we have a lot of options for going to. Even in a small town like Roanoke Rapids, we have a lot of options. So in Mexico, or in the early days when I was a kid, we didn't really have many options for going out to eat. Now, it has definitely grown. We have a lot of places, but even just going out to eat or going out was something special. But we did not lack for good food, for sure, in Mexico. Any street vendors, church members would bring food. So that's one thing that I'm very thankful for, is the food that we grew up with, all of the fresh fruits, the fresh produce, but just a luxury of being able to go out to eat or being able to go walk around the mall and get an ice cream or something like that. Wasn't very common, but we definitely were thankful for it when we got to do it.
And we take that for granted here. I have to say, though, I love Mexican food. Yes. And y'all will probably laugh, but Don Juan's here in town, my favorite Mexican restaurant, their shrimp salad, I can die for. But I have to say that I think the best, for me, the most, just authentic tasting Mexican food I had was out of a taco truck on the south side of San Jose. Yeah. And we got these things called tortas. And they were like, I guess a Mexican sandwich. It was like fried tortilla or bread. Just filled with the most amazing meat that I have no idea exactly what it was or what all was in there.
You probably don't want to know what it was.
But it was amazing, and I'm all about the little hole-in-the-wall places and the unique experiences. So I would love the food, I know. Yeah. What is something that you used to see as normal in Mexico that now reminds you of how rich gratitude can be even when we have less?
I think just going back to the idea of hospitality, of any time, someone had food or someone had something, they were always looking to share it with others first. And that was just a very, I don't know if you want to call it cultural or just normal or just the giving spirit of the people that we had, the people that were near us. But it was uncommon to not see that generosity. And so, again, especially in the circumstances where they didn't have anything, where they didn't have the food to feed their own family, yet they were scrounging to find something to give to us. So just those situations where they modeled that hospitality that I can see, I'm very thankful for.
Well, and I can see that. I've had many Hispanic friends when I lived in the Midwest. Some here in North Carolina, we don't have as large a population right now here. But when I was in California, many friends, many people in the church that were Hispanic, and I can say that they were among the hardest workers. They were the most grateful, among the most grateful people, and they were among the most giving. And
that's what makes them the happiest, too.
Well, you're exactly right.
I think you'll find that very happy culture.
They were very, very happy. So that's such a blessing. When you came back to the States, what were some things that surprised you, maybe things that people just seem to take for granted?
When I moved back to the States, I was in college, and one thing that surprised me, and especially in the area where I lived, it was in Santa Clara, so there was a lot of everything there, but just the availability of options. You can see that, too, in a small town like Roanoke Rapids. You got one Starbucks. If you have one bad experience at Starbucks, you just kind of have to get over it because it's the only one in town. But just the availability of options. We got so many grocery stores we can go through. You can go to so many different restaurants. You can go to so many different places. But in Mexico, it's more small community, and you're just thankful for what you have near you. And you don't have as many options for going out and getting things, and so thankful for the options that we have here in the States.
Well, and that's such a great thought. I think every time that my sister Rachel comes back from Africa, she's always so kind, and she never says this to us, but sometimes she has to be thinking, you are so spoiled. And we probably drive her nuts. But, I think that if we could take a day and walk in the shoes of a missionary or live a life in another country, we would realize just how very much that we have to be grateful for. And I think, and Melanie, as you described the spirit of the people there, I think I see that same joyful spirit, and that Natalie also had that spirit as well. And I think that is a testimony to your parents, in ministry. And it's like this with any vocation in life, no matter what you do. You can either focus on the things that you would change, the things that are hard, or you can focus on the wonderful things. And I think it's very evident that you all chose to not just accept God's will for your life there, but you chose to embrace it. You chose to love it. And, as a result, here you are in our ministry here, and we are blessed for it. And I have a desire to raise my children to love serving the Lord, whether they serve him full time or they're just, they're faithful in church, but to love serving the Lord. As we close out this Thanksgiving season, and of course, I cannot believe that December is starting on Monday.
Right.
And as we finish up the Thanksgiving season, and we've talked about thankfulness so much, there's something that I've read several times, and it's that I am enjoying today the blessings, the answers to the prayer requests that I prayed for yesterday. But this month, I've also had the thought that I am enjoying today the very things that so many people are praying for right now. And I know the Lord has challenged me with that thought. And so much more, my theme this month has been, I want us to recognize not just the physical material blessings God has given us, but all of his daily provision, the peace that he offers, the good church, the friends, the family, the health, all of those things. Are we taking the time to really be thankful for? In my own life, I have 5 precious children at home, and I remember 9.5 years of infertility, 9.5 years of 5 miscarriages, and praying for those sweet babies. And now that I have them, they are my answers to prayer. But am I really taking the time every day to be grateful for those? And so, Melanie, I'm so thankful that you came with us today to remind us how blessed, maybe even how spoiled we are. But I pray that we'll take this time to look around and say, Lord, what is it that maybe I'm guilty of a little bit of ingratitude? What is it that I'm guilty of not being grateful for? And I just want to thank you for all you've done. And then I'd like to challenge you, especially going back to one of the first things, just that the people with the greatest needs, she said, often looked to meet the needs of others. And I would challenge you, when you find yourself in a place where you're unhappy, you don't have joy in your heart, or maybe you're just focusing on what you don't like about your life, look around you for someone that has a need that you can fill. And I can't promise you that your problems are going to go away, but I can say that every time that I've done that all of a sudden my problems kind of pale. Mm-hmm. And God shows me where there truly is a need and how maybe just doing something for someone else, it will increase my own gratitude. Well, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to being with you next week, and we're going to talk about the Christmas story. I love the Christmas time. I'd like to challenge you to start on December 1st, and I know that it's a little redundant, a little repetitive, but I'd like for you to read Luke 2. And it's amazing to me how every year I get something new from Luke 2, and I learn about Mary and the miraculous birth of Jesus Christ. And we're going to have a great time together next week, and we'll have a wonderful Christmas season together. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this has been as much a blessing to your heart. Well, I know I'm the one that got the blessing, but I'm so thankful that you shared with us, and we'll look forward to being with you again next week. Y'all have a great week, and enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to With All My Heart, a ladies' devotional podcast with Joanna Coburnett. We hope that you have been encouraged and challenged to deepen your love for Christ and be more like Him today. God loves us, and we should love Him in return. Until next time, keep seeking Him with all your heart.